We're going to go straight on to the second presentation, and there will be time for discussion after that. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Vandita Acharya. Vandita is the director of the Purva Bharati Educational Trust and is a human rights defender from Assam in northeast India. She's also a member of Women in Governance, a national-level women network working for creating democratic space within civil society, governance and politics. So, over to you.
Thank you, Jenny, for the very great introduction of me. My friend had already shared with you about the Northeast region and the politics of violence. So in my presentation, I would like to focus on women's security and role of human rights defenders in the context of countering violent extremism in Northeast India. As my friends say, the violent extremism was rooted in Northeast India half a century before due to historical injustice and deeply felt discriminatory treatment. But over the years, we have felt that the political battle has been disconnected from the root cause of the conflict. Then it becomes the fights of so-called state security versus people's liberation that confines to a very small group of power-sharing elites. Though the government of India is rejecting of having the armed conflict in the region is still qualified for an internal armed conflict. Why? Because if you see the Northeast India is heavily militarized with 500,000 armed forces to control 1,800 militants from the 9 active militant groups. Government of India's measures on countering violent extremism are focused on national security rather than human security. It focuses on using of strict security laws rather than winning the hearts of people. It is also synonymous to army deployment. In fact, it has become the reason for many atrocities committed by security forces and armed opposition groups. Discrimination against women is widespread in Northeast India, and incidents of physical and sexual violence are frequent. Women suffer due to their identities as mother, as wives. They have been used as a courier and human shield during the conflict situation. Both states and armed opposition groups have restored to gendered forms of violence such as rape, physical assault. For sexual violence cases, absence of police stations, in particular the absence of women police stations, a barrier for women in seeking justice. Sexual violence cases are often underreported as there is stigma attached to it. Also, the slow disposal of cases develops frustration amongst people over the judicial system. Impunity for sexual violence committed by armed forces has been established as a de facto norm. A member of the armed forces who has been accused of rape can only be tried in Army Court. Army Act 1950 severely limits the limits to review judgments of the Army Court by civil courts. A study conducted by Women in Governance Assam reveals that out of 15 cases of sexual violence committed by security forces during the counter-insurgency operation, only one case made the aims of justice, and investigation for the remaining cases are still in view even after many years. In a recent judgment, the Supreme Court stated that crimes of rape should be excluded from the immunity clause enjoyed by Indian security forces. So, the women from Northeast, we strongly believe that increase in national security means the decrease in the security of women. The other measures are militarization of police by giving the charge of counter-insurgency operation and involvement of local youths, surrendered militants in the state-sponsored militia. For example, secret killing was taken place in Assam during the counter-insurgency operation, where surrendered militants, police, and the security forces were involved to kill the family members of one militant group, the United Liberal Front of Assam. Other measures which is adopted is economic development of the region without considering the rights of indigenous people and the root cause of prolonged conflict in the region. For example, Government of India has planned to construct 168 mega dam, which would displace the indigenous people from their land. Any peaceful protest by civil society organization against this government development agenda is termed as anti-national activities. It is disrupted, dispersed by police security forces. Dam sites are manned by armed forces to suppress these protests. Human rights defenders are often mislabeled as Naxalites. It's a left-wing insurgent group in the central India, militant sympathizers, or anti-national. So the defenders working on economic, social, and cultural rights are particularly vulnerable to violations committed by state agents or by private actors. Similarly, armed opposition groups also violate human rights while fighting for the rights. As my friend also said, the Northeast India, the militant groups are divided in ethnic lines. In most of the time, while they are fighting for the rights of one group, they violate the right of the other group. Economic blockade, then counter-blockade for a longer period of time become the culture of protest, which largely affect the common people of the region. Hence, majority of the population, especially women of Northeast India, are caught in between violence by state and armed opposition groups. In the ongoing peace processes, some factions of militants have come forward for the negotiations, whereas the other faction who has not surrendered shows resistance to the peace process. The surrendered militants are granted amnesty as part of their peace negotiation or ceasefire agreement. Even the victims of human rights violation, and majority of whom are women, have not been consulted about these amnesties. Due to the shortcut method of government for political gain, the real issue of prolonged conflict in the region is not addressed. Another important aspect is women's participation in peace and security. While addressing a question raised by CEDAW Committee in 2007, the Government of India refused to have armed conflict within the territory of India, and hence, according to Government of India, even Security Council Resolution 1325 relating to women in armed conflict is not applicable in India. So it is to be noted that even though Government of India is officially rejecting or having the armed conflict in the region, but still the AFSPA is continued in this region. Moreover, the denial of implementation of 1325 completely ignores the women's right to participation in various phases of before, during, and after armed conflict. And it also denies implementation of policies and practices of women empowerment in conflict and peace. The present peace talks, the negotiations are going on without involvement of women, either as a party to the negotiator or as a topic in the agenda of negotiation. So human rights defenders are facing tremendous challenge to address this issue in this region. Any debate on security policy is considered as unconstitutional. In the midst of this conflict, human rights defenders of the region engage themselves in monitoring the human rights situation, peace building process, etc. Women in Governance conducted a research on women in security, and that has been used as a tool for lobby and advocacy at the national level and the international level. Women in Governance also engages with police in the conflict areas and trying to bring them to the police-public dialogue. The sexual violence cases are often neglected. Hence, we involve in legal intervention by networking with human rights organizations, lawyers, civil society organizations, student bodies. We constantly engage with the capacity building of women human rights defenders on documentation of cases, legal procedures, laws, and acts concerning women's rights. Conflict, violence, and extrajudicial killings have led to the growing number of widows in the conflict areas, and Manipur is witnessing the rising number of gun widows. The widows of elite terrorists killed by the security forces are not provided any assistance. Hence, the gun widows from Manipur have come together to fight collectively for their justice. The Extrajudicial Executions Victims Families Association, Manipur, has registered in July 2009. Again, with the initiative of Women in Governance Manipur, the Gun Widows Association has been formed in the districts to fight for the entitlements and sustainable livelihood. Women in Northeast India participate considerably in informal political activities like taking peace initiatives, protesting human rights abuse, bridging the ethnic divide. but they are largely excluded from the formal political process and institution of governance. So women in governance plays a role here to build the capacity of women leaders to join formal political process and institution of governance. The Nagaland government passed an amendment in 2006 ensuring 33% reservation of women in town and municipal councils. But the male-dominated councils sought to obstruct implementation by delaying the council election. So it took women activists to force the council to adopt the new legislations through court order. But still today, in spite of the court order, the decision is still pending in the assembly. Mizoram is also in the process of bringing more women into the formal institutions of governance. Finally, the struggle to get space for women at peace table, decision-making procedures, and dialogue to secure fair and free community and home is still continuing in the